To Detroit right now to Brooke Harris, who has been fired. She hasn't taken legal action yet, but hasn't ruled out the possibility. She says the charter school has no union. Their teacher contract, though, does offer due process. Again, she was fired for helping her students have a fundraiser for Trayvon Martin's parents. Meanwhile, the school superintendent, Jacqueline Cassell, told Lauren Podell of Local 4 News that the allegations are completely false.
When you have an idea, the idea goes up the chain. It's how you respond that makes a difference. I wanted my students to think of our needs before anybody else's needs.
And while Cassell couldn't further comment on personnel issues,
but I would just say, I would never fire a teacher for the reason that has been given. That's just not who I am.
Superintendent Jacqueline Cassell announced earlier she's stepping down when the current school year is over. She told the Detroit Free Press she was legally prohibited from discussing the reasons for Harris's termination, but said she has no problem with students expressing their opinions on the death of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin, who was shot by George Zimmerman. Democracy Now! Invited Jacqueline Cassell to join us on the show. She didn't respond. We also invited the Pontiac Academy for Excellence to submit a statement to be read on the air, but received no response. We're going now to Brooke Harris in Detroit, who's worked at Pontiac Academy for Excellence for 3 years, winning the Teacher of the Year award twice. Brooke Harris, welcome to Democracy Now! What happened?
I wish I knew. I'm confused. My students brought up the subject in class. They were talking about it on their own while working on the actual class assignments I had assigned. A couple of them asked me if I had heard about it, and jumping on the interest of these students who, this particular group, don't do a lot of writing for me. So seeing that they were interested in this topic and wanting to use best practices in English and give them an outlet to write, we wrote editorials. And they were deeply affected. They made it very personal, so much so that they wanted to do more. They wanted to do the fundraiser. They didn't want to disrupt school. They didn't want to walk out of class. They didn't want to wear the hoods over their head. They just wanted to pay $1 to wear their regular clothes instead of uniform and donate that money to someone else who they saw needed it.
And then the reaction that you got, what was the official reason that you were given for your dismissal?
The official reasons were insubordination and unprofessionalism.
And did they explain what they meant by that, what actions they purport that you took to warrant those accusations?
No, and it was actually when I asked that question that I was terminated, because I wasn't going to argue my initial suspension. I'm sure she had her reason. She was my boss. It wasn't my place to argue it. I just wanted to know what I specifically did wrong so I could learn from my alleged mistake and be sure never to do that again. And it was when I asked that question that I was called insubordinate for the last time and terminated on the spot.
Didn't the principal support you in what you were doing?
He did. I filled out the proper paperwork. I went through the proper channels. I did everything that I needed to do on my end, and I got approval from my principal.
What has been the reaction of your students? I mean, you were voted a teacher of best teacher twice.
Mm-hmm. From what I've heard, they were very upset. I've heard a lot of them are crying. I've heard a lot of them are still writing to the superintendent. I don't know if she's received or if she's willing to read the letters. I've also heard they've been making posters of "We miss you, Miss Harris. Please come back. Let Miss Harris come back." I've met with a couple of them in person, and they've said the same thing about how they miss me, how they think this is unfair. They wish that I could come back because not only was I a good teacher, but I was good to come and talk to. I would help them with things outside of just their assignments.
And we just have a few seconds, but could you tell us, is there an appeals process to the board of the school that you can go through to appeal this decision?
There isn't. I was an at-will employee. I could have been fired or I could have quit for any or no reason at all. So I've attempted to contact and email the school board, but there's nothing official I can do.
Brooke Harris, I want to thank you very much for being with us. Former 8th grade charter school teacher in Michigan at Pontiac Academy of Excellence. Recently fired from her job after helping her students organize a fundraiser for Trayvon Martin's parents. And that does it for the broadcast. We'll continue to follow her case.
Before we end the broadcast, I want to wish you a happy birthday, as you normally do to all the people on the staff. Happy birthday to Amy Goodman.
That's not part of the script, Juan. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Thanks so much.